So really trying to zoom out and being curious about each individual person's, and of course I've done this with myself in my own life, like true values. To me, that's the beauty of this time of life, is that it's such a natural time to reflect and clarify, like, okay, the time and energy and attention that I have available in my life is limited. It's finite. It's very clear to me now. You can't pretend otherwise. And therefore, it's an opportunity for me to go, how do I want to sail this boat? How do I want this to go? Like really encouraging all of that reflection and values clarification work.
I am so happy to welcome Deb Benfield to the podcast today. Deb is a registered dietitian, body image coach, and a leading voice in helping women navigate aging from an anti-diet body liberation perspective. For more than 40 years, she supported women in healing their relationship with food, movement, and their bodies, bringing wisdom, compassion, and a refreshing perspective to the conversation about growing older. She's also the author of Unapologetic Aging, How to Mend and Nourish Your Relationship with Your Body. I am so delighted to have you here, Deb, and can't wait to jump in. And one of the first things you said just before we jumped on, and when we were talking about your book, is you said you had to fight for the title, Unapologetic Aging. What's that about?
Yeah, well, it was just not an easy navigation. I really don't know if people really understand what I'm talking about. I think this is a relatively alternative message, right? It's very counter to the common thinking about all of it: bodies, dieting, longevity, aging, midlife. So
counter in that we're being told constantly to fight it and to be in what I call body combat, right? Versus body peace. And so what you're saying is, let's just step in.
Yeah. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the book, The Body is Not an Apology, by Sonia Renee Taylor, because I think her work has been seminal for mine and many others, of course, but her poem and her book, The Body is Not an Apology, really kind of informed the way I think about apology and being unapologetic about the body you're in.
That's a marvelous book. Thank you for calling it out. So tell us what you mean, just so our listeners can start to understand the conversation, other than how they live it in their own bodies, about the intersection between pro-aging and body liberation. How do you frame that? What does that mean to you?
I have a little bit of discomfort with the word pro-aging after studying and being a part of what I consider to be this movement around elevating awareness of ageism and how it shows up and the potential harm from the anti-aging standpoint, which is the dominant message. So I really haven't found the exact right word for how I feel other than anti-ageism. Pro-aging has some growing to do, in my opinion, because of the continued presence of thinness and whiteness. It feels like there is some echo of diet culture in the pro-aging messages that I see.
Sure.
And there's a real lack of body diversity that's starting to change. I would say within the last, since I've written the book, which came out in December of 25, it feels like things have really improved. So I'm watching and trying to contribute to that messaging. But what I'm referring to is the collision, the really hard place that women find themselves in when you enter midlife and older, when you're getting so many messages from anti-aging and diet culture and now longevity medicine and wellness, it's overwhelming.
Think about the confusion, right?
Yes.
We're finally entering stages of our lives where we might feel more confident. We've just done more things. We've done more of them the same way, and they've worked out. So this is good news.
Yes.
And at the same time, we live in a world and a society that thinks that aging is to be avoided, and therefore that extends to what does your body look like? What does your face look like? It implies fragility, weakness. So you better get stronger, and you better do this. You better, or else what?
Yeah.
It's an incredibly pressured conversation, I think, for all people, but specifically for women. I'm wondering if that's been your experience.
Absolutely. The sense of urgency and the fear mongering, I feel like I've got extra sensitivity to that tone that I push against. Like, I love what you said about, and what? We grow older. And if we're fortunate, we continue to grow older.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's interesting.
And at the same time, go ahead.
No, please.
And at the same time, there is, as a registered dietitian, there is, something to pay attention to about how we care for our bodies. It's such a subtle, nuanced, unique for each person, kind of curiosity for me. And that, yes, we do need to care for our bodies without the sense of following more food rules. I mean, I know you know this, but this is a very hard time for folks who have been in a recovery from an eating disorder, or people who have been caught up in, diet and fitness culture, and all of a sudden what they've been doing isn't doing the same thing. It doesn't work anymore, as people say.
Sure.
So, and I say that with air quotes.
Yes.
So there's this, continuing to increase control, attempt to control body by behaviors, which is
I just want to name
potentially harmful.
Yes, and I want to name that the additional pressure that's on all of those folks that you're talking about is the advance of GLP-1s. Again, we've talked about them a lot on the show. It's not about yes, no, maybe so. It's just that their presence has changed the conversation in a way that's can be very threatening to people of various ages, various body sizes, various genders. It's something we're still working out, I think.
Well, and one of the ways that I see it complicating this aging conversation is at a time, Deb, like you're saying, we need to be tending to ourselves in a way that makes us feel vital, that makes us feel engaged and able to be lit up in our lives in the way that we want to be. The things that we might normally go towards for that is being shadowed by if you would just be small, and the way to do that is a GLP-1. And again, I'm not saying good or bad. I think that's a completely personal decision. We always talk about body autonomy, but is that really the thing that we need to see first as we're trying to navigate a really fascinating, rich, complex time? And it reels me back also to what you were saying, your sort of discomfort with the pro-aging term. So when I started, as I've been aging and looking at a lot of material around aging years ago, when I found Rebecca Levy and her studies around pro-aging, I was like, that's the word, right? And then the 5 years that went after, I just watched it become co-opted by everybody who was like, so now we know pro-aging is a good thing. Let's add all the products behind it and the expectations behind it. And I was like, oh, bummer. We just lost a really great idea to now a bunch of expectations, which with a bunch of expectations that go with that term. So I think you're right. Like, if we're not going to be, this rah aging, what is it to step in to this next chapter from a very self, and I mean that sort of in that internal family systems, like centered, conscious, connected, caring, compassionate way. What is that?
Yes. What does that look like? Yeah.
Right.
And that's my constant pursuit. Is like, can we make intentional choices about how we nourish our bodies and move our bodies and rest without the feeling of urgency and fear and like another rule set, right? Just another set of like shoulds in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a rebelliousness about me that I think, I mean, you're talking about IFS. I mean, I have a strong rebellious part. And I think just feeling that I'm being told, you know, with so much urgency and rigidity that there's a right way and therefore there's a wrong way and there's a right body and a wrong body. You know, with all of my years working with disordered eating and eating disorders, I just know that that is very triggering, for lack of a better word.
So you both mentioned IFS, and I want to just make sure that our listeners understand that that's internal family systems, and the best way to understand that is to go see the movie Inside Out, because it really is about all of the different parts of us that emerge all throughout our lives and the roles that they play, whether we want them to or not, consciously, unconsciously, all of that. But it leads me to ask you, Deb, I think you've described your work as trauma-informed. And so I'm wondering how that enters your work as a dietitian.
Yeah, more words to wonder about. I am also a yoga teacher, and I've done extensive training as a presence-based coach and did a lot of training in the yoga teaching realm around trauma and being trauma-informed. Also with mindfulness, meditation, all of that has been very interesting to me. And I have a strong nerd streak, so I do a lot of research and reading. And the way that I approach work with my clients and my writing, I just had somebody tell me the other day, it's like, I feel like I'm talking to a therapist when I'm talking to you because I'm always asking for like consent around the next topic, checking in about how it's landing, and just really offering folks as much choice as possible before I just charge in, and giving the person I'm speaking to or my reader lots of permission to like opt out. My book has somatic check-ins consistently and throughout. Another thing I had to fight for because I wanted my reader.
But that's interesting to me. Why would you have, I mean, not that I want you to get into the nitty-gritty of this, but it's interesting why you would have to fight for somatic check-ins. They seem so necessary and intuitive.
Right. Yeah. And that's how it felt when I was writing it. This feels tender. I feel like I need to stop and give the reader a chance to check in with themselves and their bodies. And I think when you're looking at marketing a book, I mean, it's a little maybe boring. It slows down the pace. You know, it may have felt repetitive. You know, and I know repetitive commentary can provide security, a feeling of being safe when you know what to expect. Sure. So it was just a little misalignment with like a writer's intention and, you know, considering marketing and what people want when they're reading a book. So another thing I just had to educate and encourage.
Yeah. One thing I want to reel back to that you said really just sparked something. You said, I want people to choose. I want people to keep choosing. That's part of trauma-informed work. And it made me think about, you know, I just keep mulling this like pro-aging, anti-aging, like what are we doing? And what we're doing really is choosing, right? I want to choose how I age, right? And versus being forced. And so it brings me to this question is there, when someone's navigating all this pressure, and I know all of us, it's kind of a question for all of us, but when our clients are being pressured into this is how you should do it, this is how you should age, or this is how you should look, what is a question that invites them into choosing for themselves? As simple as like, well, what do you want? But more nuanced. What's a way to get into that?
Yeah, I think really staying curious and inviting the person that you're talking to into their own curiosity about like what they really want. And as a dietitian who has worked with people who've been chronically dieting and trying to control their eating choices, people lose the capacity to know what they want. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times I've heard, I don't know what I want anymore. I've been following, external guides, experts, influencers telling me what I should do. So sometimes that's an opportunity to kind of give yourself some space, kind of listen in. You don't always know.
As I'm hearing you say that, it occurs to me that, and I'm wondering if this is true for all of us who work with clients, the underlying question seems to be, what's the fear, right?
Yeah.
There's a fear of death. Okay, sure. Kind of inevitable, but it's there. There's a fear of irrelevance, of not being as important or as smart or as aware or as nimble or as fast or as anything that we've been. And I hear this all the time. And what I'm wondering if it's your experience that the range of time in which we're hearing this has changed. Like I used to hear it from, let's say, randomly 60 plus. I now hear it from 45 plus. Who are also managing this horrific thing they call perimenopause, right? So, okay, there's that. But it's interesting. I asked this in the context.
I just have to put you didn't put air quotes, but I'm going to put air quotes when you said horrific thing called perimenopause.
Right, you're right.
I know you're tongue in cheek around it, but it's not a horrific thing. It's just how it's marketed.
Yes. No, thank you for saying that.
That's the conversation. Yeah.
So I guess the question I'm really asking is, how do you manage, obviously, in the work that you're doing, not only in your book, but also in with your clients, on easing some of the fear and easing into, yes, this is my body. Let's, all the things it's accomplished. This is my genetics. This is my, what's that conversation like?
Yeah. I encourage my readers and clients and myself to consider, zooming out and really being curious about what your girlhood self was like what excites you, what makes you feel vital and alive, that's truer to who you are before your experience was that your body and your appearance equaled your worth and value, and potentially if you're loved. And that I also know not everybody had a girlhood where they had access to that, because some people had very hard childhoods that also, like, they started early on seeing their bodies and their appearance as a way to win love and value in their circles. So really trying to zoom out and being curious about each individual person's, and of course I've done this with myself in my own life, like true values. To me, that's the beauty of this time of life, is that it's such a natural time to reflect and clarify, like, okay, the time and energy and attention that I have available in my life is limited. It's finite. It's very clear to me now. You can't pretend otherwise. And therefore, it's an opportunity for me to go, how do I want to sail this boat? How do I want this to go? Like really encouraging all of that reflection and values clarification work. I appreciate you mentioning the time, because in my lifetime, I'm 67, I don't think I was thinking at all about wrinkles until like well into late 40s. I mean, I just don't think it was something that entered my mind.
No, but it
But
wasn't a
I
public
am
conversation for younger people.
exactly. Well, people weren't selling products that were targeting me.
Yeah.
And I feel strongly that that's very different now. And
Yes.
I had a conversation on another podcast where the interviewer told me a story about her daughter in the 6th grade asking her what a wrinkle was, because like kids are now so into like the YouTube skincare that's like a younger, playful, seemingly innocent and safe pursuit. But the vocabulary is trickling in. And therefore, the fear mongering and the story around prevention, like you can prevent wrinkles if you start now using these products and getting these procedures. So, yes, I am very clear that this is a much, much wider window.
Right. As though a wrinkle was a terrible thing to have.
Right.
Right. And
you
Jenny,
say wrinkle like it's a bad thing.
Right. You say wrinkle like it's a bad thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I earned every little line. Thank you very much.
Yes,
but Jenny,
absolutely.
It reminds me of when you and I were presenting at a conference. And I said, oh my gosh, everybody's so young here. And you said to me, they are not as young as they look. They're just not allowed to have any wrinkles on their face. And so it's all been erased one way or another. And I was like, I don't know why, but I was shocked. You know, I just sort of had to reorient as sort of how I see wisdom. I see wisdom because somebody looks like they've been around on the planet for a day or two and not like they just, came out of high school. So it's fascinating, this whole like vilifying signs of aging.
Yeah.
Deb, I noticed, I think it was on your website, that you wrote a blog. I think it's called, What If I Told You Body Changes in Midlife Are Protective and Not a Problem to Fix? And this, I thought, was a brilliant way to discuss this. Can you tell us a little bit about the blog or about the subject matter or what brought you to that?
I will tell you, I have felt pretty safe on social media. I have not been attacked. I don't see a lot of trolling unless I'm talking about this.
Interesting.
If I start talking about body changes, potentially being protective, people come for me. And I think that is fascinating because...
Say more.
Yeah.
There's something about making a belly okay that really upsets people.
Are you hearing from men and women?
No, these are women.
Wow.
So they're defending. So when you say that body changes are actually a good and supportive thing, they're coming at you and saying and defending their belief that no bodies should stay the same or go or reverse. Is that correct?
And vilifying and really rationalizing and defending their fight to keep their bellies flat.
Defending why they should stay in body combat. And that is important for their well-being, for their identity, for all the things, why they should stay stuck in diet culture.
Let's follow this
thread, though. Well, let's follow this thread, right? Why would they stay in combat, right? This way, I will think I am X. I am younger. I am stronger. I am, fill in the blank. And by the way, more importantly, society will think I am. And I want society to think I am because the minute society doesn't think I am as strong or as youthful or as nimble in mentally, physically, and every other way, sexually, then I will be irrelevant. And I really do think that still belies most of the whole movement about what we'll call anti-aging. It's a fear of
fighting for relevance.
irrelevant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if
Absolutely.
that's something that you're finding. Yeah.
But Jenny, one more thing, it reels back, Deb, to what you said is people have lost the capacity to choose of what makes them relevant, right? What makes them important. They're still tied to these diet culture markers of relevance.
Right.
And not trusting themselves, not trusting their bodies, feeling like the only way to be good, because I really feel like people are constantly trying to be safe and be good, and therefore disconnected from what their true interests are, their true self. But there are a couple of things that I really want to respond to, Jenny. One is like, I want to get back to your question about protection. I don't want to lose that, but I also want to speak to exactly what you're saying about fear. The way I see this, and I probably went way too far. I think this was like a very consistent message in my book, is like, once you understand the body hierarchy that we live in, then you understand that the default body has particular unearned privileges just because of body attributes. And those body attributes, I know we don't have to go through the whole list, but we know is thin and young and white and able and, very hetero and, all the things. If you have any identities other than that, you are othered. That is what othering means. And you're pushed to the margins with every one of those identities. So as you age, you lose that. There's a loss of that sense of belonging and therefore a sense of safety. I think a lot about this. So anything that leaves you feeling a little bit outside, a little bit like you don't belong, therefore you don't feel as safe in lots of subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways, then it makes you feel more interested in at least remaining thin and fit, appearing to pass
like
for younger, to do what you need to do to pass as younger and more like the default body. It's very strong. And for most of us, without conscious awareness.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you said something else I want to just touch on too. There's so many studies now about what are the common factors for people who do happen to live a very long life, but a life not, on life support, a life where they can be productive in whatever ways they wish for as long as they can. And one of the things that keeps coming out in all the research is community. That when you are part of communities, when you have, people that you can count on for a variety of different things, whether it's recreational, family, friends, whatever it may be, political, that is really something that keeps somebody alive. And I say this because it's easy to become part of communities that are also toxic. And so you want them to be, I say, in-person communities when you can, rather than the online communities that tend to do the things you're talking about, which is to start fights over silliness. But I do think that our fragility is less, our purpose is greater when we feel like we're part of something, including community. I'm wondering if that's been true of the folks that you work with.
That's interesting. I think I have thought more about like the social dynamic and the cultural pressures about why you feel compelled to control your body, believing it will keep you relevant in whatever way, in like love relationships and romance and dating, in a long-term relationship, in your workplace, in a social circle, even with your children. I mean, I think there is a fear that you will no longer be relevant. And I get that. And I think the fear within that is this, like Maslow's hierarchy, what's underneath everything is like really a sense of belonging equals safety. I think about safety in lots of ways around how we choose to move our bodies, how we choose to nourish our bodies, how we choose to rest, what supports a sense of safety. That's what I'm orienting toward.
Yeah.
So important.
And Deb, one of the things when you said, people want to feel relevant. And so there's that feeling, if I won't be seen, I won't be relevant. It's something I hear a lot from women who are in this chapter of aging, which I think just doesn't have such a broad name. Like we have many names for all the other developmental stages of our life. And then you got perimenopause, menopause, and then you're aging, and end of story, right? But one of the things that I do hear from a lot of women is I feel invisible, right? And I feel invisible. I'm not seen. I'm not relevant. So how can I hustle? How can I do more? And now we're back into that cycle of hooking into the things that we have been taught historically that give us credibility in the world and let us be seen again.
Yeah.
Nina, this touches on something else that I really wanted to make sure we asked Deb about, which is, sexuality in midlife and beyond, right? So what are you finding about that? What are your clients telling you? And can we at least give our viewers and listeners some tip that they can walk away with about their own sense of their sexual beings and how that shifts at this stage of life?
Yeah. That's the next to the next to the last chapter in the book. And the reason I included it is because I don't see it anywhere. I just don't see this conversation anywhere. And I think that's, again, another thing that's starting to change. But I interviewed sex therapists and I read several different books and cannot say enough about how much I love Emily Nagoski's work. I think their work around understanding your sexuality with a haze-aligned view, with like understanding that your relationship with your body and how you are comfortable or not comfortable in your body hugely influences your experience. So I wrote a lot about...
I just want to say haze aligned, health at every size, in case you're wondering about the acronym. Yep.
Thanks. I wrote about how connection to body, being capable of being present with your own body, is the base, the ground. And that is very challenging for a lot of people. Many women told me that they were just not interested. It was like pass, hard pass. And that's fine. As a matter of fact, I get that response a lot from people. And I think that's complex and opens up an opportunity to be curious about why that is. And it's a valid, totally understandable place to be.
Right.
I hear it many, many times.
Well, it's not as if we're saying, and I want to be clear about this, it's not as if we're saying if you don't have a sex life, there's another level of irrelevance. We're not saying that.
Correct.
Everyone gets to choose exactly what they want in their life.
And we're not saying the sex life is with somebody else either.
Yes.
Just to be
I
clear.
say that many times.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
with or without anyone you like. Right.
Yes.
Right. But And what I'm also saying is that I think there are people who sort of give up on it simply because maybe there's physical discomfort, or maybe they're just tired of trying to think they have to be or look a certain way. And so, I'm so interested by, the work of just being in your body and making the decision from that place.
That's it. Yeah. Yes. And trying, it's so hard. I understand this is a big conversation. Yes. It's complex and there's not a straight line here. And it's different days. But is it worthwhile to you to start to be comfortable in your own body so that you can explore your own sexuality and make choices from there, rather than forcing yourself into a situation where you are disconnected from your body and looking at your body with judgment and criticism, which does not allow for pleasure.
Yeah.
I think it's very, if not impossible, very hard to experience true pleasure in your body if you are disembodied.
Yep.
So is it worthwhile to become embodied? And what does that look like with all the stories that we have about being in an older body?
Well, and it opens this whole conversation to pleasurable aging, right? And I'm not talking about sexuality. I am talking about embodiment, sensuality. But how do we want to do that? Right?
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's also where your trauma-informed work comes into play again, Deb, right?
Yes.
I know it does for us. It's hard to be embodied at any age if your body has been offended in some way, and one or more times, right? And so there is work to be done, we hope, earlier than later, so that there is an ability to be in that body. We try to protect ourselves, I think, from not facing some of the things that we may have gone through. But if we can do that, I think it allows us to be comfortable in our own skin. I mean, how many aging celebrities have we now heard say, well, the best part of aging is that I just get to say whatever I want and I don't give a hoot, what anybody thinks. Sometimes.
I call that the unfiltered stage.
Right.
I love it. My mom's in the
great,
unfiltered
right?
stage.
But it takes time to get there, right? It takes time to get to the unfiltered stage.
It does. It does.
And hopefully you have that time, because that would be nice.
It would be nice. It would be a privilege. Deb, before we wrap up, is there something you want to share that feels really important? I know there's so much on all the topics. They're nuanced, they're complex, they're much bigger. But if there's one thing that you want those who are joining this conversation to take away, what is that?
Wow.
No pressure.
I know, no pressure.
Well, the embodiment piece that we were headed toward is really important to me. And I feel like it allows for the pleasure that we're talking about here. It allows for the potential freedom. And I know that's not everybody's value. Not everybody wants to be as free as I seem to want to be. I feel like to be free of the constraints of looking at your body as a constant project to work on, so that you can actually develop a relationship, a partnership with your body for this stage in life, allows for freedom and also the pleasure that comes with embodiment and being vital and awake. I mean, everything's not pleasurable. You're going to be present for pain as well, but to fully have a higher level of intimacy with your own present moment is available for you, perhaps more available if you do this process, if you disentangle yourself from all the rules and the good and the bad and the binary that I think diet culture, longevity medicine, and wellness culture sends our way. We're such a target for all those businesses, those industries.
My gosh,
Absolutely.
yes. Yeah. So, Deb, your book is Unapologetic Aging. I'm sure it's available. We hope it's available everywhere. And can you tell the folks how else they can reach you, your website and perhaps your social media?
Yes, it's easiest to find me by just using my name. Okay. And I am on Substack consistently. Okay. That is Unapologetic Aging, same as my book. The groups that I offer are also Unapologetic Aging. And my Instagram, which I'm also on weekly, I'm not an everyday person, but I'm there consistently every week,
Mm-hmm.
is Aging Body Liberation.
Got
Thanks
it.
for
Aging
asking.
Body Liberation.
Deb, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel like I could talk for another
We
long
could.
period of time.
Got an hour?
We may need to.
We'll kill another hour. No, we actually would love to have you back and further the conversation.
Yeah, I would love to keep talking.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.